As we move through Hebrew grammar, let's take a brief look at Segholate nouns. It's an important class of nouns. How do we define Segholate nouns? Well, a Segholate noun is a two-syllable word with the first syllable being accented. This means that the tone syllable is the first syllable. Now, normally the second vowel is Seghol, and the first vowel is Seghol, Tsere, or Holem. It's often Seghol, and so with the first syllable Seghol and the second syllable Seghol, that's why we call them Segholates. But the first vowel can also be a Tsere or a Holem. So here's some examples. We have Melech, that's king. Accents on the first syllable, it's got two Seghols. Melech is an A class, and we'll see what that means in a minute. There are a few others that begin with Seghol that are IE class. Another example is Sefer. This one begins with a Tsere. This is an IE class Segholate. Sefer means book or scroll. Then we have Chodesh. This is month, and it has a first vowel of a Holem. This is an OU class Segholate. So let's look at A-class Segholate nouns. Let's look at singulars first. Our first example here is Evan, stone. The singular absolute is Evan, and we put that in construct, and it's Evan Kir. This is stone of a wall. Kir is wall. Notice that the propretonic vowel, meaning the Seghol here under the aleph, does not reduce, and it keeps the accent. So it's Evan Kir. So unlike other nouns where a propretonic vowel reduces, for a Segholate it does not reduce. Let's take a look at plurals. We'll look at Melech, king. So the plural absolute is formed a lot like for other words. So we have divarim, for instance. Here's mulakim. The first vowel reduces to a vocal schwa. The second lengthens. Then we have that im ending. So mulakim, kings. When we come to the plural construct, we end up using an A-class vowel to form the construct. So malkei. Here we have malkei haaretz, the kings of the earth. And so we have an A-class vowel here, the patach, and then that's followed by a silent schwa under the lamed. And this doesn't reduce because it's a closed syllable. We have malkei, and it's only an open syllable that will reduce if it's more than one syllable behind the tone syllable. And then we have a K, historically long vowel or a vowel letter. That's not going to reduce either. So we have Malkei Haaretz, the kings of the earth. That A-class vowel is why we call this an A-class Segholate. Let's look at some IE-class Segholate nouns. So we'll look at some singulars. So Sefer is scroll or book. In construct, we have Sefer Chabarit, would be the book of the covenant. We have no change in this singular construct. But if we look at plurals, for instance, neder, which is a vow, we see we have nidarim, the absolute, vows, but in construct, here we have nidrei ish, vows of a man. In this case, we have a hirik as our opening vowel, and then again a silent schwa, nidrei ish. Because of the hirik, it's an I or IE class Segholate noun. And then finally, let's take a look at some OU class Segholates. In a singular absolute, we have okel, which is food. The singular construct, we also have okel. In this case, we have okel hashanim, food of the years. This comes from Genesis 41. It's actually the food of the good years that Joseph is talking about, the good years when the food will be abundant, the 7 years of abundance. So food of the years. If we look at the plural absolute, let's take a look at chodesh, which is month. And so we have chodashim. This is a typical pattern here. We have the reduction of the first vowel. We can't put a simple vocal schwa under a guttural, so it becomes a compound schwa, a hatef comets, and then the second vowel lengthens, so we have chodashim. But in plural construct, notice that we have this O class, short O vowel here, chodshei Hashanah. This would be the months of the year. Chodshei Hashanah. So this O class vowel, this short O, is why we call this class an OU class of Segholate nouns. Let's look briefly at Segholate nouns with pronominal suffixes. So a Segholate with a pronominal suffix will form like a construct usually. So for instance, here is Malkaka, your king. So you've got that A-class vowel followed by a silent schwa under the second letter. Another example is Sifri, my book. And so this is the IE class of Segholate. And then finally we have Hodshekem, your months, your plural months. Now exceptions can occur. For instance, for the word months, we can get Chodeshayu. If you pronounce that wow as a vav, Chodashaiv, or as a wow, Chodashayu. This would be his months. So in this case, you have a reduced vowel as the first vowel and then a long vowel as the second vowel. This does occur, but the normal pattern is what we're seeing up here, where you have the construct looking form and then followed by the pronominal suffix. Finally, there are some cases where Segholes are replaced by other letters. One example is for Segholes with guttural letters. And so some Segholate nouns with gutturals, they'll take other vowels and replace one or even two of the Segholes. So an example is chefetz. This is a one guttural, and it means desire. Another example is na'ar. This is a two guttural, and it means young man or servant. In this case, both of the Segholes are replaced by patachs. Sometimes an ayin affects the vowel in the letter that comes before it and the vowel that comes with it. And then another example is resha. And here's an example of a three guttural. The ayin in the third spot prefers this A-class patach, and so we get resha. This means evil or wrong. And so there are examples of these Segholates that have the Segholes replaced by other letters. And then on a final note, there are other types of Segholate nouns. So there are, for example, two yod, three yod, and even two wow Segholates. An example of a two yod Segholate is bayit, very common word for house. It's got the same pattern. It's got a accented first syllable and it's two syllables, but notice that the vowels are very different. A three yod is Chevy, not a car, but captivity. And again, you've got a yod there in the third place, and the hirik is preferred here. And an interesting example is ruach, for spirit or wind. That's a two wow Segholate. Because of the changes that have gone on, it's only a one-syllable word, but historically it was a Segholate. There are other kinds as well, but This is getting a little bit deeper than an introduction, so I'm going to call it there, but this has been an introduction to Segholate nouns.